The storm rolled in with a low growl, clouds darkening the sky above Milltown like the promise of a long-forgotten secret clawing its way back into the light. Lightning cracked, illuminating the abandoned public library at the edge of town, the one no one dared to enter since the fire 10 years ago. It had been left to decay, a hushed symbol of something people whispered about but never quite named. But on this day, a German shepherd named Ranger stood poised at its rotting steps, ears twitching, nose twitching harder. He knew something was inside. Something no one expected. And when his paw scratched across the dusty wooden floor of the main reading room and struck hollow, when he began digging with purpose, claws scrabbling, panting with urgency, it wasn't long before the trapdoor was exposed. The sound of it creaking open wasn't just wood on rusted hinge, it was the opening note to a silence so profound, so stunned, it left grown men frozen, their hearts caught in their throats. What was down there changed everything. If you believe in kindness, second chances, or the powerful loyalty of animals, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel, Justice on Paws. Your support helps us share stories that deserve to be heard. The story truly began months earlier, with a man named Evan Blake. A former police detective in his mid-40s, Evan had walked away from the force after a tragic misstep during a hostage situation had cost a young girl her life. His once firm eyes now bore a haunted depth, and his lean frame, always slightly hunched, carried the weight of guilt that no therapy had managed to lift. He retreated from the world, moving into his late aunt's creaky farmhouse on the outskirts of Milltown, trying to lose himself in manual work and solitude. But pain has a way of tracking people down. So when he was approached by a friend from his former unit to help rehabilitate a retired canine dog, one that had lost his handler in a drug bust gone wrong, Evan nearly said no. He didn't want the responsibility. He didn't think he deserved anything loyal or good. But when he met Ranger, something changed. Ranger wasn't like other dogs. He was quiet, watchful. His handler's death had left him scarred too, not physically but emotionally. He didn't trust easily. For days he wouldn't eat. Wouldn't respond to commands. But Evan didn't push him. He simply sat by Ranger's kennel each evening and talked, not like a trainer, not like a cop, but like a man admitting to his ghosts. Slowly, a bond began to form. Ranger would sit a little closer. Then rest his head near Evan's boot. And one night, when Evan fell asleep in the barn after another sleepless spell, he woke up to find Ranger curled beside him, tail thumping softly. In a town like Milltown, where wounds fester in silence and secrets are buried deeper than any grave, the old library had always stood as a warning more than a place of memory. After the fire gutted its east wing, rumors spiraled, about a missing child, about lost police files, about hush money from long-forgotten officials. But no one ever investigated further. The case had gone cold, and the town liked it that way. Until the day Evan took Ranger on a walk through the abandoned part of town. Ranger had been restless that morning, pulling the leash with unusual energy, ears locked forward. Evan followed, puzzled, until they reached the crumbling steps of the old library. Ranger whined low, pouring at the threshold. Evan hesitated. The place was condemned. Yet something about Ranger's insistence pulled at him. Maybe it was the way the dog stood, as if remembering something. Or maybe it was that Evan knew what it was like to feel unfinished, unsolved. They stepped inside. Dust and the scent of mold blanketed the air. Ranger's nose went to work immediately, scanning, stopping, backtracking. Then in the center of the main reading room, beneath a stained tapestry of fallen ceiling tile and rain-rotted beams, he stopped. Barked once. Then twice. Then began to dig. It took Evan less than a minute to realize the floor sounded hollow. He got down, heart pounding, and helped sweep the debris. Beneath the dust and rubble was a perfectly squared trapdoor with a rusted iron ring. It took everything in him to pull it open, the hinges screamed, the air below wafted up cold and metallic. He shined his flashlight down into the dark and saw a narrow wooden ladder descending into what looked like a basement, though no records had ever shown the library having one. Evan didn't hesitate. Not with Ranger at his side. They went down slowly. The room below was small, stone-walled, forgotten. But what it held was unmistakable. Against the far wall was a single wooden desk, and on it, neatly arranged, were several sealed evidence bags, yellowed with time but clearly marked. Evan's breath caught as he picked one up. Inside was a child's locket. Another bag held blood-stained cloth. Another, photographs. Dozens of them. All linked to the same cold case, the disappearance of 9-year-old Lily Cross, a girl whose case had haunted Milltown in whispers and stifled questions for over a decade. It hadn't been an accident. It hadn't been a random act. The photos clearly implicated several prominent people in town, some retired, some still serving. There were notes, ledgers, and what looked like confessions in tight handwriting. Ranger paced the room, stopping once by a corner where something was buried under loose stones. Evan moved them aside and found a box. Inside, wrapped in plastic, was a recorder. He hit play. A man's voice, cracked, shaky, began to speak. He admitted to helping cover up Lily's death. He named names. He described how the fire in the library had been set deliberately to destroy the hidden evidence stash below. But someone, likely a guilt-ridden insider, had restored the evidence and sealed it below the floor, waiting for someone brave enough to find it. Evan couldn't breathe. His hands shook. He knew what he had to do. He didn't return the evidence quietly. He made it public. He uploaded the files online. He turned over everything to the state police, bypassing the corrupt local system. It made headlines across the country. Arrests were made. The truth, buried for so long, finally surfaced. And for the first time in years, the Cross family had closure. But Evan didn't do it for justice alone. He did it for Ranger. For the dog who taught him to trust again. Who reminded him that sometimes the broken are the ones who see clearest. That healing doesn't mean forgetting, it means facing what was buried and choosing to lift it into the light. In the weeks that followed, people came to know the story of the K9 who uncovered a town's buried guilt. Ranger became more than a dog, he became a symbol. Of loyalty. Of instinct. Of silent, unwavering courage. And Evan. He found himself again. Not as a detective. Not as a hero. But as a man who stopped running. A man who finally came home. The library was eventually rebuilt, this time with a statue outside, of a German shepherd with one paw resting on a book. The plaque read, "For those who never stopped searching." If this story touched your heart, please let us know by liking, commenting, and sharing it with someone who needs to believe in hope again. And don't forget to subscribe to Justice on Paws for more true stories of courage, healing, and the incredible bonds that change our lives forever.